Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Chris, thank you for being with me. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
I absolutely adore the fact that you're here. You're gonna have to you'll share a lot of good things. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you know that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living, please.
For a living, I am a myofunctional therapist, and I know a lot of people probably have no idea what that is. Myofunctional therapy, I like to liken it to being like a personal trainer of sorts or a physical therapist, but of just the muscles below the eyes, but above the shoulders. So I deal with all those wonderful muscles there to help eliminate any sort of dysfunction and to strengthen and coordinate them.
It's pretty interesting. Not to mention not very easy, because especially that and I know because you probably can't tell, but I had a few adjustments here and there. I was in a terrible car crash, so half my jaw was, not where it was supposed to be. So I know what you're talking about. But so what was it like? Were you like walking on the street one day and you're like, let me be a malfunctioning therapist or something? Or was there anything else to it? Like, is there anything before that?
Absolutely. I think that that would have been a much more interesting story, actually, if
Yeah, I
I just
figured.
happened upon it. But it's actually from my first career. So, my first career, I'm a licensed registered dental hygienist. And I was doing clinical dentistry in a pediatric office. And it was really through my children and that pediatric dentist. So, a combination of a bunch of wonderful events that actually happened to come together at just the right time for me. I like to say that as a parent, I have four children. So as a
Nice.
parent, we always give the highlight reels for our kids. So when people ask how are things, we always say, everything's good. This one's doing basketball or has a soccer tournament, or that one is, has a dance recital. But there's so much underneath the surface that we don't talk about. And so
Yeah.
working in that dental office, I was actually talking about some of the real things that were going on. Like with my son, my oldest child and my only boy, he had a lot of attention and behavioral impulse control issues. He was diagnosed with ADHD. We were medicating him, and it was just not going down a really good path for him in school. My daughters had a lot of sleep issues and upper respiratory problems. We were chronically at the doctor's office, the pediatrician. I would say we were always there with some upper respiratory infection. They were congested, ear infection, throat, all the time. And it was really from that pediatric dentist and being able to talk to her about these things that were going on that I came into the world of how important all these muscles are that I work with now every single day, especially for children, but definitely compounds as you get older if they're not functioning properly. So it really is the source of health being in this wonderful region there that I work.
That's remarkable. And uh, I'm a son of the dentist, right? My mother is a dentist, and she doesn't work with children. So I love what you said, because number two, you have to be a very, very patient person to be a dentist or to be involved in the dental. But the fact that
Absolutely.
not only you were involved in that, but you also work with children, you probably have the patience of an oak. That's remarkable. You know,
Thank you.
it's awesome to work with people like you, because I'm also patient. But if you ask me, like if you ask the people that know me, they're not going to say that. So it's, how guys are. Come on. So definitely that's pretty awesome. And the third question is, how did you know that this was the way to go? Now I want to go a little bit deeper here, because I'm sure you've noticed that, or at least I hope you have. You know how people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. They just know that they should do it. And
Yes.
often, like in many cases, they just pick something that's because it's in front of them and it's not really for them. And later on, start a job related to that, which is again not for them, or they start a job that has nothing to do with what they've studied, and they end up losing 4 to 6 years 4 to 6 years is a long time, especially in a young man or young woman's life, right? It's a
Absolutely.
lot of time. And correct me if I'm wrong, and when I'm wrong, of course, but I personally believe that it's next to impossible to do something 8 or 10 hours a day that you don't like, it's not for you, and not to be a miserable person. I have done it. I personally was miserable when I was doing something that wasn't for me. And that's actually why I made the channel and why I'm interviewing awesome folk like you, because you're a pretty good example. And you kind of highlighted it in the beginning when you said that your first career was in dental and then you moved. But then again, and that's why, I don't know, jokingly or not, it is true. Folks like you are like stone patient. So, and you also qualified, you also had the background. So truth be told, you could have done a lot of other things, a number of other things, right? You could have been this, and that, but
Very
you
true.
didn't. You went just that specific area. And my question is, how did you know that this was the way to go? Like, was this a gut feeling? Were you influenced by somebody, friends, mentors, parents, or something? How did you figure it out? Because that's like incredibly specific. People
Right.
don't go to something that specific like that, that something else was driving.
Absolutely. For me, again, it stemmed really around my children. So it was two of them in particularly. So one, I had one of my children, one of my middle daughters who had the upper respiratory issues that I referenced earlier. And I took her to a who became a mentor, but she was a myofunctional therapist at that time. And I took her there for a full evaluation because I really wanted to know what was going on. I thought she was the one who had like the biggest issues. So out of the four, that was the one that I picked to take to a myofunctional therapist. What was supposed to be a 2 hour long visit lasted maybe 10 minutes, if at all. So this myofunctional therapist also had a background of being a registered dental hygienist and was able to just look at my child. And before she sent us to go get scans and so forth, she said, "This child cannot breathe." And that hit me like a ton of bricks to my heart, because I was thinking to myself, my daughter was 7 at the time. How is it that this person who has a similar educational background as me is able to just look at this child that I've been looking at every single day? I look at other people's children every single day when I was doing pediatric dentistry, and I can't tell which children can breathe properly and which ones can't. So how was she able to do that? And that really was a jumping start for me. The second one was really my oldest, my son, where I mentioned that he had the ADHD and we were medicating him. A lot of what we were uncovering as we were peeling back the layers and doing the myofunctional therapy, and as I was learning to do the myofunctional therapy myself, was that a lot of ADHD sometimes is misdiagnosed, and that there's a 70% overlap between poor sleep in children and
I'm
how
sorry,
that manifests.
70, a 70 or
7
17?
0, 7
That's a
0,
huge number.
70%.
That's like ridiculously huge.
Yes, yes. And so it's very, very commonly misdiagnosed, where there might just be a sleep issue in children. And so for me, when I started to see all the changes that were happening with my son, we were able to take him off medication. He was sleeping better. He was performing better in school. I felt like I was getting to meet him for the very first time. So in doing the work that I was doing with my children and seeing their changes, that was really what drove me and said, this is what I want to do. I want to impact other families in this same way. I want to be that person who's able to look at someone and say, hey, this needs to be addressed. And so that's really the driving factor for me.
That's incredible. And to be honest, like normally I don't believe in luck. Normally I don't, because I'm the kind of guy, this podcast program, whatever you want to call it, it's a side thing. I have always been into finances. I am either a financial analyst, an accountant, or an audit. It's what, and actually it's the same thing, but 3 different names. So I don't leave anything to chance. I don't depend on luck. I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're actually lucky to have that doctor looked into your kid and like, it just needed 10 minutes. Because there are those professionals, I don't know how they do it. Like my mother, as I said, dentist, her parents, doctors, their parents, doctors, like that half of my family, all doctors. So they were able to connect to people like instantly. It was remarkable. So I think you were lucky about that.
Thank you so much. I agree. I 100% agree. It was a blessing.
Now, I want to ask an additional question.
Yeah.
And I know you're answering that question 50 times a day. It's a cliche at this point, but for me, it's not a cliche. Could you please share a few tips and tricks? How do you get to balance work and family? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm sure you've noticed sometimes one of those things gets neglected. And when that happens, of course, often it's just minor issues here and there. But minor issues can turn into big issues. And that's why I'm asking all the people that are, in that situation, you're like a little bit of a tip and trick, because you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I agree that this is a definite problem trying to balance work and life, and it becomes difficult a lot of times for many people. I think perspective is the actual focus that we should really have, because when we get on this hamster wheel of life, we have to remember why we're doing the things that we're doing, right? A lot of us, we're thinking ahead. So we're trying to save for retirement. We're trying to ensure that we're able to afford a certain type of lifestyle that we would like to maintain, or we would like to provide for our children and our families. And if that is the goal, we have to keep that goal in mind. So keep that perspective, because it's not just about reaching that destination, reaching that goal. That is a continuous goal that you'll continue to reach for and strive for. It's about making sure that along the way, you're keeping those values that will help you. That way you can continue on the hamster wheel. So maintaining those values might look like having a time that you're officially off the clock. A lot of us tend to bring things home from work, or bring
Yeah.
things home. You can't. You have to be off the clock. I am clocked out, mentally clocked out too, and present in where you are, because that balance is essential and critical to being able to do what you do in the long run and maintaining your wellness, mental and physical.
And it goes the other way around. What happens in a home, you shouldn't bring it to work. I had
Absolutely.
this colleague, tremendous girl, very smart, incredible. And she was saying that she had a boyfriend and he was cheating on her. And she was coming to work angry all the time. I was like, at some point, I'm going to beat you. Stop cheating on her, because you're making my life miserable. I've done nothing to you two. I got nothing to do. Either you going to stop cheating or she going to leave you. I don't care what's going to happen, but I don't deserve that. How are you two in a relationship? I'm the one suffering. That's not fair.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, we've got to keep these little boxes and keep that perspective that the journey has to match where we want to be with the destination.
100%. And for the last, do you happen to have an advice for the audience? The audience is mostly people that are in universities or looking for a new job, haven't figured it out yet. If you happen to have an advice, what's it going to be?
You don't have to have everything figured out, but you do have to have an active game plan. So I have this wonderful book that I wrote. It's called Accomplished: How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout, and Execute Goals. This is something that this audience, I think, it can really benefit from. What it has in it is a really good defined game plan where you can optimize your sleep and increase your productivity and really enhance your overall ability to achieve these goals that you have. You can find that book on Amazon. There will be show links that I'm sure you'll be able to use
It will be
too.
the description below.
Exactly. And if you ever need to talk about what's going on or how your productivity is impacting your life, I am available. I have free consultations on my website. You can always look into myofunctional therapy on my website. It's themyospot.com, and I'd love to chat.
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure that some people might contact you. I highly doubt that the people that are working for the government are going to contact you. They don't need your advice on how to sleep. They're doing it 24/7. I often, it's not a joke at that point. You've seen that movie with Johnny Depp when he's a pirate, right? And there
Yeah.
are those pirates that are part of the ship. That's what it looks like when you walk into every single government building. They're all like part of the furniture now. You can't move them anywhere.
That's true.
There come roots coming out of the shoes and everything. They're no moving anywhere. With that said,
Honor.
Karese, huge thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it. We should totally do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being. Bye.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.